right. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Critical Conversations live from Denver. It is Friday night. Let us make sure. Yes, look at all of that wonderful AV, beautiful perfection coming across the screen here. Hey, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. And here we are all together again. Awesome. Thank you very much. I see all of your guys' comments here and everything. I made an effort to change the color of the names of the chat box there. You can see the comments. Once we go live, all the comments start appearing. There's comments that happen pre-show that don't show up in the box there, but I tried to change the color to make the names a little bit more readable, but I seem to have failed at that. It only runs when the show's live, so it's hard for me to test it out. But anyway, hello, everybody. Welcome to 2022. And you can see I am here by myself. I apologize. Sort of. I mean, it's not really my fault. Mel is sick. We don't know. We got tested yesterday. We got PCR tested at our local hospital parking lot along with half of the rest of Denver. And so we don't know the results yet on that. I'm feeling fine. I have... knock on wood and don't jinx it and all that, but I have, I don't get sick a lot, which is just a very fortunate genes or DNA or genetics or whatever. But Mel is a little down. So, whatever. She got her booster this week and we weren't sure if it was a reaction to that or something else, but it looks like it might be something else. So we're seeing what's up with that. Okay. So it's me running solo here tonight, so I will be going back and forth in the comments section. And you guys can't really see, but the desk here is cluttered. I've got papers everywhere. This is my work table when I'm not on air. You guys don't see my desk and all the rest of the stuff in the office here, but yeah, Teresa, yeah. And but I'm cluttered because this is crunch time now. I'm in the last month of my master's program. My final thesis is due at the beginning of February. And I am nose to the grindstone, going to town on that and getting the writing done that needs to get done. I finished the research that I'm doing, and that's represented by this little pile of paper right here. Those are transcripts of L. Ron Hubbard's lectures. And I was going through as part of my research for my thesis is actually parsing out Hubbard's words, taking apart his lectures, 5 of these lectures on the subject of confessionals. And thank you, Flint, for that. Thank you very much. And yes, I'm sure Mel is going to recover. But thank you for that super chat. So I've been diving into these lectures, and I've parsed out some things and found out some things and discovered some things. And I will be doing, I'll say this now, I'll try to remember at the end of the show too. I'll be doing the podcast, the Sensibly Speaking podcast will be live tomorrow. I think I'll be doing it at 11 a.m., which is when I usually, on Sundays when I do my critical Q&A shows live, I usually start them at 11 a.m. So tomorrow, Sensibly Speaking podcast will be at 11 a.m. in the morning, as opposed to 11 a.m. at night. Yeah, so 11 a.m. in the morning, and it will be on the topic of thought policing and thought reform in Scientology, and specifically how I came to realize through doing this research and study. More onion layers, more layers of how that stuff would enter into my headspace and make me look at the world in different ways. And so I have some stuff to talk about. And I was trying to record it earlier today, and it just really wasn't coming out very well. And I thought maybe it might come out better if I tried to do a back and forth or, get communication from you guys as I'm doing the podcast so I can see your questions or see your things coming through. as I'm explaining this, because it's kind of deep, it's kind of complicated, and I know I feel that I get a little overly complicated sometimes in my explanations of things, and so I want to try to get more to the point of it and make it make it easy to understand. So I hope to accomplish that with the podcast tomorrow. So yeah, okay, good. So you guys are gonna be able to be there for that, so that'll be cool. Yeah, about time I got on a proper UK schedule. Okay, so I thought that this week we might talk about, first week of 2022. I don't know about you guys, but I barely register that it's 2022 yet. I am like, what? It's 2022? Somehow that hasn't quite sunk in the same way that the other New Year's in my life have. And Mel feels the same way, where we're like, really? It's a little weird. And anyway, but I thought for this first thing, maybe, I did my year in review podcast last week. And that was a nice, kind of take a look back at the last 365 days of Scientology and otherwise. And one person wrote me and suggested we talk about January 6th, and I'll go there in a few minutes, I think. But I thought maybe if I put some ideas out, or some like what I'm sort of hoping to accomplish, and maybe get from some of you guys, this being a call-in show, 984-214-4154 being the number. That maybe you might have some things to share with me, or what I might do with my channel this year, because I've got some high hopes, I've got some big aspirations, and I've learned my lesson in over-promising and under-delivering. And so I'm not going to promise a damn thing in this show this week, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I'm hoping I can accomplish this year. And that is, okay, thank you very much for that. First off is get my thesis done. And that will give me a master's degree, a master's of science in the psychology of coercive control. That's the program I'm doing. And I'm really, really pumped to be at the last part of it. I am confident in my thesis. I feel I know what I'm doing. It's a little hard to sit down and actually get the work done from time to time. In terms of actually pounding out the words, but I've got some good research, I've got some good stuff here, and I've got some good things to say about Scientology and confessionals and sect checking and all that nonsense. So I'm confident that by the end of this month, I'm going to have that thing wrapped up and turned in. I do not know after I turn it in. I imagine it's a couple months before I'm going to have it reviewed by a couple of people and get graded or marked. And then I'll have, the pass on the thing. I'm not conjecturing I'm going to fail this. I'm sure I'll pass it. So that's the thought there is, yeah. So don't say pounding. Okay. So I'll get that thesis done. Then I don't have a month by month, blow by blow of how I want 2022 to roll out, because I'm a little open to what's this going to afford me. Probably not a whole lot of anything to start with. Lots of people get lots of degrees and lots of things and don't do anything with it. My plan is to collaborate with a couple other academic types to move the ball down the road on discussing, analyzing, breaking down psychology of cults. Scientology is a great case study to use, and because I'm a former member turned academic, which I have not really seen anybody in the ex-Scientology world do. I'm not trying. I didn't set about trying to be unique or groundbreaking or anything. Yes, thank you. Hey, hun, I will do drugs and I will say pounding frequently. I don't know. I'm only glancing at the comments here. So I want this degree to mean something and to do something for me. And so I'm planning on writing papers, not just in academia, but also for more, lay peoples, I don't know, normal people, regular people. publications. I want to get the word out more and more and more about cults and thought reform and destructive influence and predators and things like that. And that's kind of, my life work. That's kind of that's where I'm at. That's where I've arrived to. And since I got a degree in this, I might as well use it to my advantage. So, so it'll be writing. I've got a couple book ideas that I want to get at least the first one going on. That will be a collaboration with somebody else I'm in talks with on to do something like that. Might be cult or Scientology related, obviously, but it's not anything I've talked about before. It's not the RPF book. I don't know if I need to write the RPF book now because the RPF doesn't exist anymore. Mission accomplished. We got rid of it, So I'm not sure that exposing more about it is in a popular book format is necessarily the way to go when the big, punchline at the end is, and they got rid of it. It's not exactly the hard-hitting, investigative journalism that the public are craving, right? So I don't know that I'm going to do an RPF book. However, the fact that the Church of Scientology had an RPF and engages in thought reform techniques and uses mind control is still very much the case. And so while they don't have an RPF, it's still Scientology, and there's still all kinds of crap going on there. So, yeah, exactly. And more on that would be great. So I'm definitely planning on publications, both, journals or papers or whatever I can get written, and some books. And that's probably more than just this next year, of course, obviously, that's still further down the line. And of course, I've got, the thing that I have promised and that I am going to deliver on now finally is after this degree is done, I'm going to get the tone scale video and the e-meter videos done. And those will be the very, very, very first orders of business in terms of frontline, what I need to get done. Those will be the next things that will be getting done once this project is done. I'm not promising them in a couple weeks. They're big projects. There's a lot to do on it. I want to do it right. I want to do it better than I've done earlier videos. I go back to my earlier stuff and I don't cringe. I'm very happy and proud of my work. But I know I could have done a lot better. And with the knowledge and education I've got now, that's where I want to go with that. Now, I've got a call coming in, so we're going to pick this up because this is a call-in show. All right. Hello, Nick.
Oh, hey.
Hey,
so, I've had a really great holiday. Hope you've had one as well. I've been watching your videos. So, couple of things. First of all, my mind is just always a hurricane of absolute chaos. So, first and foremost, I know that, for example, we know that Hubbard stole, like when he wrote Dianetics, he stole a lot of nonsense and other things. Some of it helpful, some of it nonsense. But he stole pretty much everything from people like Christian Science, Mary Baker Eddy, I think it was.
Mary Baker Eddy, yeah.
Ernest Holmes.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I'm kind of wondering, it's like, I'm thinking this year, even into 2024, because this is the year of the tiger, and I think it's going to get a little bit more vicious than we want it to be. But I think that's part of the, we want to be comfortable, but I don't think we're going to be allowed to be that comfortable. We're going to have to start really learning how to separate the wheat from the chaff. Because I think, it's like the average person. I mean, I talked to them about like the COVID or the vaccines or all that other stuff. Like, I'm not sure how much I can say on YouTube, but because I know they kind of watch that. But there's so many issues today that if you're trying to discuss it with friends, family, etc., it's like everybody's kind of like, we're not sure what's real and we're not sure what's unreal.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the real challenge with this year and even into 2024, especially coming up with that election that they're already getting excited about.
Yeah, it's exciting times to be alive, huh?
Oh, definitely. Secondly, as far as like my goals and tasks, and hopefully I don't embarrass myself when I say this, I have been watching a lot of Grant Cardone's videos, and I know he's a Scientologist, but he's still really good at real estate. And it is a goal of mine to eventually get into the real estate. And, some of the stuff that I've heard from his organization is one of the things is like, people get so caught up in dabbling with multiple skills, they don't stick to one or two or even three at the most. And I'm kind of wondering, even just sticking to three, it's like, I got to tell you, some of the stuff that he says seems to be pretty rational and logical. Like, for example, he writes down his goals every morning and every evening, supposedly.
Okay, if I could interrupt for just a second, Nick.
Sure.
Because you bring up a very good point and something I'd like to highlight in what you just said. And in fact, something I was trying to make a point about when I was recording my podcast earlier, I'll probably talk about this tomorrow a little bit, is one of the most insidious things about thought reform or about how it gets into your head, is the more it aligns with or is parallel to or is giving you true things, the more powerful, the more insidious the lie becomes in your mind.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So...
And
I mean, Grant Cardone, I only say that with a little bit of this bias of like, hey, Grant Cardone is taking you for a ride, because that's what Grant Cardone does. He takes people for rides, and that's how he makes money. Now, if some people happen to have some real estate success with his principles, I look at it kind of similar to the beginning steps of MLM or something where, a very, very, very tiny number of people are going to profit, but a whole lot of people are going to suffer,
Yeah. I mean, I kind of look at him like, the way I look at him, and I mean, I do find his books kind of inspiring and whatnot, but I think that's a lot of it. It's just because it's basic NLP.
Exactly.
I kind of see him as a hyena.
Yeah, inspiration is easy.
It's like if I'm not gonna touch him. I'm not gonna pet him. I'm not gonna cuddle up with him. But because I know he's a hyena. But it is kind of fun to watch.
If you say so.
Time,
I can't stand the guy personally, but I get it.
Well, I mean, the part of the reason why I can stand him is because, I was a couple of years ago, I was really depressed, and I was working here in Nebraska. It gets minus 22 degrees, and I was working as a dishwasher late at night, and so so I was listening to a lot of his audiobook, 10X or whatever the hell it's called, and it's like that actually kind of saved me from just going effing nuts at that job. But eventually I did at one point I just did walk out of the job, and I just laughed. But and I think that's I think that's probably I think number two of what I think we're going to all be facing this year is really learning to realize how much we're worth, realizing our worth.
Yeah.
Because I find a lot of atheism is very nihilistic. It's very we're all about meaningless and blah, 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 blah. No. I have this great friend whose name is Mike. He's in the Denver area. He's fucking fantastic. He works as an addictions counselor. He's my fucking, I don't agree with everything he says, but it's he's my fucking guru, my fucking sensei. It's if I got an issue, I'm like, shit, I can't fucking figure this shit out. I'm going to get his spin on it. He's fucking awesome. I really appreciate the guy. I like the guy. But at the same time, it's well, okay, here's what we need to do as a society. We really need to just start naming our price and realizing what we're worth. Because
I agree with you.
See it all over TikTok and social media.
Yeah, exactly.
These people complaining about how, these jobs and these companies don't pay living wages. They don't recognize what we're worth. And it's like it's time people start standing up for them fucking selves.
Exactly. And I think that that's exactly what we're seeing in this whole thing that they're calling the Great Resignation. At least that's what's being reported on. I actually want to address that a little bit because I'm not sure yet if this Great Resignation is actually as great as it's being reported at or made out to be. But I do know that the interviews with people or the talks with people about this across the country have been, we're getting sick and tired of being abused, And,
well, I think the challenge. I think the challenge is going to be how do we become more. I don't want to use the word predatory, but it's like how do we regrow our teeth and claws and yet maintain our humanity? Because what I feel like is, and I'm sure you've probably heard some of Jordan Peterson's nonsense, where he says, man has to be a monster in his Kermit the Frog voice. I don't think so. I think that's bullshit. I'm a man. I kill monsters. I fucking hate monsters, right? I don't care how fucking good looking they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Twilight movies excluded, and included, of course, obviously. I just don't give a shit, right? It's a criminal. It's a monster. I'm going to take it down because I'm a man. And the thing of it is like, how do we hold on to our humanity, but at the same time have that toughness and have that power? And I think that's that's one of the things that we as human beings are going to really have to struggle with within the next, not just this year, but in the next year. Because I think that 2020, 2021 was definitely a clarion call to sit there and say, yo, humanity, who the fuck do you think you are? And now it's our time to start answering.
Fair enough.
Pardon my language.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Nick, I appreciate you calling in and sharing all of this with me, and I'll address a little bit of that as well after the call here, but I'm going to let you go, so open up the line, okay?
Okay, have fun.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Bye-bye. All right. Yeah, I did have a couple thoughts on that whole thing, too, by the way. Oh, Flint, thank you very much for that. Awesome second super chat. Appreciated it. Okay. What's just to address a couple of the comments here and stuff. I think what we're looking at here, I don't know, like I said, I don't know about this whole Great Resignation thing, but because I think that, there's longer term trends and stuff, and I haven't really done my own little study of it. I've just seen a lot of media reports about the Great Resignation. But I do know from, watching my wife work and my friends and, information I get, people do want to have or feel that they have more value and more worth. And I think maybe there's a lot of reasons for that. And it's not just because of oppressive, abusive job situations, although those exist. I think that the COVID and these last couple of years of the pandemic have really got us thinking in a lot different ways. I mean, I think that's even a very non-controversial statement. Is like, clearly a pandemic is going to make us think a little differently. And in lots of different ways. And one of those ways is a lot of us are now thinking a lot more about our relationships, our friendships, our family, our jobs, our relationships with our life, what's important and what's not. How do we get to where we need to go? Who's important and who's not? How many essential workers are people that, that exist in the unskilled labor category? Stuff like that. You start thinking about this and going, just kind of questioning all these things that we kind of have accepted as normal and usual and acceptable, and this is how things should be. And it's got us questioning a lot of that stuff on all ends of all spectrums, and I think it's great because it's exactly the kind of change that brings about a great deal of upheaval and controversy and problems. But generally out of that comes, I don't know. I don't want to get too, I'm not trying to pimp Marxism here, so the dialectic, but I do think that out of that can come some good things. And also, I think something that's come out of this, that after things calm down a little bit, which I'm hoping will happen this year, we've had a vast increase across the boards where everybody, not just the fringe, but everybody has really raised their awareness about science. And it's because it's been at such the forefront of our life. And a lot of people have misunderstood a whole lot about science, but not everybody. And a lot of people have gotten on board with science. We just don't necessarily hear from them as much as we hear from the fringe elements and from the folks who don't want to comply or deal with science. And of course, we've also all gotten an ice water dip in what the bleeding edge of science is all about, which I talked about, I think, in my in a podcast a couple of weeks ago. That science on the cutting, bleeding edge is messy, is disagreeable, is inconsistent, is hard to understand, changes on a routine basis. That's what it means to be on the bleeding edge of discovery. And as soon as people kind of twig on where they've been over the last couple of years when it comes to the science, they'll come to appreciate that, I hope. And I don't know that we have a whole lot of choices with that anyway, because with the increases in climate science, I think more, not less, science and science talk and science literacy will be demanded of us than ever before. We'll see. But those are some thoughts. I've got another call here, so we're going to pick this up. Hello. You are on.
Hello, Chris. This is Travis.
Travis! Welcome back. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I've got 3 things for you tonight.
All right. What you got?
Okay, the first one is you had asked earlier in the show for a suggestion about things that for you, subject matter, potential subject matter for you this year.
Yeah.
Okay, I think after you earn your certificate, or before, a good thing for you to do would be how advertising and/or news networks utilize leading and misleading and manipulative headlines and verbiage and techniques in what they present to the audience.
Yep. Great idea. Noted.
Now, it's very... Go ahead.
Oh, please carry on.
Now, the reason I bring this up is because, listen, I worked in the news, the TV industry for well over a decade.
Yep.
And I can tell you they all do it. Okay, CNN, Fox, NPR.
Yep.
That's
right.
They all, I'm not saying they're all lying outright to you, but they're all giving you distorted information to some degree or another.
Yep.
And I'm not an Alex Jones conspiracy theorist. Far from it. I can tell you, just pull up the MSNBC news feed on your computer right now, and you can just count the stories.
Exactly.
And so the reason I bring that up for you is not everybody's going to be as illuminated when it comes to this, and it could be an educational experience that you present to everybody, which is what you're all about.
Yep. Perfect.
Take that for what it's worth.
Thank you, Travis.
Now, no worries. Now, here's my second thing. You're in Scientology. What do you know? Did you ever hear about the International Honor Roll?
The International Honor Roll of what?
Well, I looked through the International Management Bulletins, and one came out on the 5th of April, 1983, and it's titled How Senate Hill Went from Financial Crisis to Affluence in 13 and a half months.
Yep.
And it's this verbal, I mean, it's not even useful as toilet paper, okay? And I like that, and I said, good. So at the end of it, they had an application for the International Honor Roll.
Okay. That's not something that lasted. That didn't have legs.
Well, Which the
The honor
policy
roll.
manual or the honor roll?
The honor roll.
Okay, so you know about this thing.
Well, I know that it didn't last because it wasn't a thing by the time I got into Scientology in '85.
Let me tell you something. A 10-year-old would come up with. I read the questions on the application. A 10-year-old could come up with better questions, and this was something that I think Hubbard had written. And it says one of the questions is, I help my org to stay on schedule, and I force others to do so as well.
Yeah.
That's one of the questions. You're supposed to check off yes, and then send that in there. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, these are adults.
Yeah. These are adults in a cult. So, yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't mean to laugh at the misery. It's just, it is that ridiculous.
Yeah, you should laugh at the misery.
Yeah. I mean, it's that stupid. Okay. You know, so, yeah.
Well, but one part of it was that one of the first questions was that you're helping. Now, in reference to birthday game.
Yeah.
Frequently, this policy manual. And then the application referenced the 5.4 times quota.
Yes. Very important number in Scientology.
Up to date, to this day? Or
yeah, 5.4x has been the consistent number used. Although they, now it's all about ideal orgs more so, but with whenever the birthday game comes up, it's always about 5.4xing your statistics. Yeah.
Like in what kind of a time period are you looking at? Every month?
Oh, in a year's time. You're supposed to increase your statistical averages by a measure or factor of 5.4. That's for the orgs. For the missions, for all the missions, they're supposed to 100x. So if they're selling one book on January 1st to a public person, by December 31st of that year, they're supposed to be selling 100 books. They're supposed to 100x all of their activities. So we thought in the orgs we had it a little easier at 5.4x, but nobody ever really pulled anything like that off.
And what would happen to people who didn't make that 5.4 number? Nothing?
Nothing, because it was everybody. But it was always the goal. It was always the ideal, the thing you were striving for. There always had to be a winner to the birthday game, but that winner didn't necessarily get there by 5xing their statistics. They just managed to get their stats up more than anybody else did.
Which could have been any amount, right?
Any amount at all, because it's relative expansion. So even a small org could expand more in a period of time than a bigger org and outdo it. So it's not about volume at all. That's not how the game is played.
That's called the per capita number, by the way, which is
cool.
That's a per capita growth. Well, cool. Thanks for explaining that to me.
Yeah.
Now I have the third thing that I want to ask, and my final thing. And this is a ridiculous Travis question.
All right, bring it on.
Something that you and then the viewers can add to in the comment section or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Okay. What discount hotel chain, in your opinion, do you think you're most likely to find unsavory objects underneath the bed at? Now, I thought about this, and I figured... I got three that I figure are all tied.
Okay.
Days Inn, Motel 6, and the Econo Lodge.
Yeah.
And I'm leaning more towards Motel 6 is going to have let's say, we'll keep this a family show. It might have some used products and something, things that you might buy at Walgreens underneath there.
Yes, I agree with you completely. I was going to say Motel 6, and I have stayed in Motel 6s. And I was terrified when I was in. I mean, I was not alone in that room, and I don't mean there was another human being in there with me. I mean, there was just, it was not a savory place to stay.
No, it wasn't, and I can tell you guys that the reason why I picked that myself is because when I was a young man, which is a number of years ago, I actually worked at a front desk at a Motel 6, and I checked a young woman in. This was during the 90s, late 1990s, About 3 hours later, this big, giant, burly policeman leads her into the lobby in handcuffs and throws the key to the room. Back then, we used to have those manual keys onto the desk and says, "Hey, I caught her shooting up heroin in the room there. And she's got a bunch of beer in the sink, and you can take the beer home with you. I can't take it. It's against policy. So see you later. You can re-rent the room." Now, I took the beer. It was Bush Light. And sure enough, she had tried to flush needles down the commode, and it flooded the whole room. So
Wow.
I've never stayed at a Motel 6 since then.
Yeah, I will never stay there again myself. So good call.
All right.
All right, man. Thanks
All right.
for calling
Thank you.
in.
Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. And we have another call in the queue here from Diane, I believe. Let me pick this up. Hello, Diane.
Oh, hey.
Hey, you're on.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so in regards to the first caller, and no judgment, nothing like that.
Totally.
I found it very interesting that he said Grant Cardone kind of spoke to him when he was at a low point in his life, which feels very synonymous with people recruiting people into Scientology.
Yep.
Wanted to point that out.
Yep.
And then, and the other thing about Jordan Peterson, he kind of poo-pooed him,
Yep.
and Jordan Peterson is a controversial person.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I've listened to a lot of what he says, and honestly, it's not all crap.
No.
A lot of it's crap, but a lot of it makes sense too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's kind of I don't know how to take him when he says.
I take what I agree with, and I reject the rest, and that's what I do with Jordan Peterson, because because there's a lot of layers to the stuff he's talking about too.
Yeah, and I feel like he sometimes compares apples to oranges.
He does. He does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Grant Cardone, he was actually a speaker, presenter, whatever, to a teeny tiny chamber event here in, Bufu, Egypt.
Okay.
And I couldn't believe it. I was like, why is Grant Cardone showing up as a speaker at our chamber event? It was a Zoom meeting. And he said such awful things like, basically, family doesn't matter. It's all about, you have to focus on business. Family's a distraction.
Yep.
And
Yep.
He just, yeah,
very Sea Org-like messaging out of Grant Cardone's mouth.
Oh.
He idealizes the Sea Org attitude. He thinks that that's a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for revving people up and getting them excited and using that excitement to get to induce them to make bad financial decisions is exactly his business model.
Yeah. And my former boss was a big fan of his, and I was always like,
Yep.
You're not going to motivate me with Grant Cardone crap, because he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah. He really is. And most people look at his shtick and see him that way. They go, oh my God, this guy is such a used car salesman. But there are a group of people who are down on their luck, need help, are hoping for a quick fix, and they end up on his radar, and that's where it goes. And that's where he gets his little bro culture from.
If you can 10x a day, you can't. There's so many hours a day. Let's just be realistic. You can't 10 times what you're doing every single day.
Right.
When there's only so many hours in a day.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
You're kind of ridiculous.
Well, that's where he takes that Sea Org sort of production work ethic and tries to bring it out into the real world and say to people, this is how it should be. This is how you're supposed to be acting in your life. And it is just inducing madness. It's a kind of psychosis.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like an extreme word to use, but I'm telling you, it's not. That's what it does to you in your headspace inside. When you start living that life, you get crazy.
I am so sorry that you've experienced that in the Sea Org.
No worries. I'm over it now, and I'm just warning people about it because it's, you know, it's bad. And I didn't want to get into a big, you know, fight about it with Nick, but I did want to end up saying that out loud, Diane. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so.
You're welcome. Yeah. Okay. Love to you and Melissa.
Awesome. Thank you for calling.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Cool deal. Yeah. Seeing some of your comments here, guys. Yeah. Jordan Peterson is, you know, I've not really talked a lot about the guy, but I mean, since we're sitting here chatting amongst us critics, you know, he's a complex guy. He's got a lot of nuanced thinking. He's really into Jung and analyzing things through tropes and through archetypes, and you know, that's kind of the psychology theory that he's gravitated to and gotten hold of and utilizes in his thinking. And he analyzes religion that way, and he looks at economics and politics through those kind of lenses. But his most interesting take on that stuff is when he gets into morality. And I found some of what he had to say about some of those tropes and myths and archetypes and myth building that occurs through history and through time. I found that stuff to be kind of interesting. That got me thinking. That was thought-provoking. I don't necessarily agree with his conclusions, but I appreciated having my thoughts provoked. So I had to go learn and read some stuff on my own and go, oh yeah, look at that. That's kind of interesting. So I found that interesting. And of course, I'm going to agree with anybody who says, you know, straighten up your life and clean your room. But you know, as with everybody, he's got strong opinions on things that are outside of his area of expertise, and some of them are, you know, kind of half-assed opinions, and so I don't agree with them. But that's fine. You know, that people say the same thing about me, and that's fine. You know, but I wanted to address something you mentioned earlier because I thought it was important. Yeah, you're right about the gender pay gap thing, by the way, but I agree with you on that. But you said earlier, let me see if I can find it. You mentioned something about Fauci. And maybe this comes across as Fauci apologism. You said Fauci in an interview claimed to represent science, and so criticizing him is criticizing science. I don't think it's appropriate for public health officials to make augments by authority like that. I normally would agree with you, and I just wanted to throw out there the idea, Bud, that I can sympathize with or empathize with Fauci's position in that he has been the top leading immunology expert for the U.S. government for years. He's been involved with this stuff for decades. He's a very knowledgeable, authoritative figure, and he knows his field. And I know cults. I know them really well. I don't know them better than anybody else, and I don't know that Fauci knows immunology better than anybody else, but I'm going to use this comparison of me anyway, because I get so frustrated sometimes when I know this stuff so well. I've lived it. I've learned it. I've interviewed others about it. I mean, this is something I've really made my life study, right, that I'm doing. And when you enmesh yourself in something like that so much and you live it, then when you see people say things, right, that you just know are completely wrong and wrong-headed, and then you see camps of these people coming out and just, you know, and then lambasting you as a person for daring to forward scientific theory or scientific ideas, it gets frustrating after a while. And I think probably, if anything, that's where his comment comes out of. But like I said, I'm acting like a Fauci apologist right now, and I don't mean to, because you're not wrong. No one scientist represents all of science or all of scientific thinking on anything, and they shouldn't represent themselves that way. So I get it. But I did want to throw that back out there for your consideration, Bud, because Fauci is probably one extremely frustrated person at this point, in the same way that, you know, you guys hear from me about cults like Scientology. I could tell you about other stuff. I mean, there's 12 tribes. There's we talk about the JWs. We talk about the Mormons. I mean, there's so many groups out there that get up to such nonsense. And you guys know about some of this stuff, right? Because I've told you about it, or you've seen it in other places. And then I get this kickback from people. Well, that's not a cult. Well, that's not bad. Well, that's not wrong. There's not thought reform. There's no such thing as brainwashing. You don't have to listen to former cult members. I mean, you know, the stuff that we run into. And you just, you know, it just gets very, very frustrating, you know? So, yeah, except Carl Sagan. I will say that's actually true. Carl Sagan's a pretty good guy. But even he was the first person to say, which is why I glommed onto him so hard, you know, hey, I'm just a guy. I'm not even like an authority figure. I'm just, you know, just science, the process, the procedure. That's what you guys need to be following. That's why I liked Carl Sagan so much. Okay, so, hey, cool. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know how Fauci would be making a pretty penny off of this. I mean, I get the idea, but I'm just not sure that that's true. And if it is, I'm not sure how that would work. I mean, how would that work? I'm not sure. Anyway, there we go. Billions, yes, billions. Me too. That's what I glommed onto with Carl Sagan right away. I'm just responding to some of the comments here as we're going. Now, as far as something else I'll share with you guys, because it's not like, you know, broadly to, you know, to the entire world, but something else I'm planning on doing. And I don't know if it's going to come to fruition this year or not, but I could see how it could. If the stars align and you know, Mars is in retrograde and, you know, the Jupiter is in the 7th house and all of that, then possibly I could also start on this series of videos I want to do, a long series of videos. I think it'll be a lot of fun, of cults and entertainment. I want to getting back to my schemes and plans for the year. I want to do a whole bunch of reviews, and this is going to be a great way for me to combine two things I love doing, which is movie reviews or TV show reviews, but from a cult perspective, right? Like, let's talk about the culty stuff that's in these shows. And I'm talking about Handmaid's Tale. I'm talking about The Path. I'm talking about maybe do some reviews of documentaries as well, like The Vow, things like that. But more the cults and entertainment, you know, even like that thing we did a couple of years ago on Tiger King. You know, they did another season of Tiger King, and there was actually a little separate show that they did on this Doc Antle character, right? And is that a cult? Is he running a little sex cult, you know, over in his place? You know, I could do a show on that. And so I thought, well, that might be kind of fun and might generate some interest because it's something people are already watching. Maybe they'd want to know more about the culty aspects of that stuff and how that works and what they got right and what they got wrong, you know, and there's a lot of movies and a lot of TV shows and a lot of things to review on that. So I thought that might be kind of fun to get into and do. Eventually, I'm definitely going to do it. It's just a matter of when. I hope I can get to that this year. Yes, I will be OT. That's right. Yeah, because oh, yeah, great. Yeah, because the Master, that's right. Just like I did with the Master, Hey Han. Yeah, I love talking about that stuff. I'm big on movies. I'm big on story. I'm big on breaking that stuff down. But if I can break it down from the point of view of what they're getting right and wrong about the cultic stuff, that might be kind of fun too. Or, you know, analyze how they're, you know, using the cult stuff. Because I'll tell you a show right now that is probably one over time. It didn't start this way, and over the season, it's had a lot over the show. 4 seasons, I think they've done so far, of this show called Cobra Kai, which is a follow-up to the Karate Kid series from the 80s. And they brought it back, and they got these characters, and these 3 writers have put a series together. And after 4 seasons of this, a lot of silly, goofy stuff in that show, okay? But this last season, I just finished a few days ago, has one of the best themes of just thematically of cults and anti-cult and thinking with how cults work and how even a good thing can be taken to an extreme and made into a bad thing because it's too rigid, it's too hard, it's too extreme. You're doing it too much, right? And even a really good thing can be taken too far. And I thought they did a really good job with that. So that might be the kind of thing that I would do a video about stuff like that. So anyway, that's kind of another thing. Yeah, Wild Wild Country, anything with Joaquin Phoenix. That's right. So there we go. Okay, good. And Benjamin, you're asking about my thesis. I actually mentioned that at the beginning of the show, so you must have come in late. Yeah. Yeah, actually, wow, that's a good idea, Xian. I have been wondering about whether it's possible to do something bigger and broader, like a Netflix documentary or something, or get something up on Prime or something like that. I mean, if you ever went through Amazon Prime's catalog of D and F movies, there are so many. I thought, well, maybe this is a platform I could get a documentary on that's not any of that crap, but is actually something useful and helpful to people. So we'll give it a shot. And no, I have not yet seen Boba Fett. I have read some things about it, but I have not actually sat down and watched it yet. Okay, excuse me. Big fan of The Expanse. And I'm definitely enjoying that. Flint. Yes, Star Wars, the Star Wars cult is definitely not a cult. There is no cult. There cannot be a cult. And if you think there is a cult, you're just a Sith Lord. Yeah. Thank you, Sheila, for that awesome and generous super chat. Very appreciated. Very much appreciated on that. I do want to keep building up the channel and the show and the subscribers and the support and all of that this year as well. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, Boba Fett's on Disney Plus. They've got a whole bunch of stuff coming this year. I got to tell you guys, you guys know I am all about the nerd, but I'm getting a little over the Marvel universe. I've never gotten into the DC universe beyond Wonder Woman, really. And yeah, and Wheel of Time on Amazon was so disappointing. So disappointing that I since we're sitting here talking about entertainment, I'm just going to ramble about this for a minute, because Mel and I were actually really, really, really upset. We were really pissed. They did a really horrible job with adapting a book series called The Wheel of Time to a Game of Thrones style and Game of Thrones budget, for this show, and they just ruined it. They really, really did a bad job. So I was really disappointed by that. I won't go into all the gory details because most of you guys probably haven't even watched it. But are the Jedi a cult? They became one. That was actually the point. Yeah, they did. They did become a cult. They became insular. They became inward looking. They became extreme. They became so enamored by their own goodness that they never imagined that they could do bad or thought to question themselves. And that's how the Jedi became a cult. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, they did, and that was where the balance was lost, and why Anakin had to bring the balance back. I don't know that the trilogy, that the prequel trilogy, really did a great job of laying that out as well as it could have. There were so many things, there were so many missed opportunities. But if that was what Lucas was trying to do, and I think that's what he was trying to do, that's what I got from it. I thought there were definitely places it could have been a lot better. It's a tough story to tell. It's very, very different from a serialized adventure story, which is how Star Wars kind of started. And so when you dive into the history of the Sith and the Jedi and the conflict and where that balance was lost and all of that, you're talking about a different kind of writing almost. And Lucas isn't really that good at that kind of writing. And so, yeah, Jar Jar is a secret Darth. So, yeah. Flint, Ewoks are all secret Sith. That I could believe, because I've hated the Sith from the very beginning. The Borg are a cult. The Borg are actually more than a cult. That's an interesting point. The Borg are more. The Borg are a hive mind. They are all kind of extensions of one mind or one unit. And that is a cult, I guess you could say, to the nth degree, to the most extreme end it could be, is everybody is literally an automaton under the control of a central authority. But we would call that a hive because that's not really possible in human thought. Human thinking and individuals are too independent to ever fall into a Borg mentality. That's why they have to, have all of the implants. Yes, resistance is futile. The Borg. Yeah, I'd say it's like a hive. I'd say it's a hive. I think that's the best description I have for that one. Flint. All right, you guys. So let's go ahead and start wrapping up the show. Peanut butter and jelly is the way to the dark side. You should bite your tongue. Okay. I have missed you guys. I have missed doing this show. Thank you very much for coming around and watching this stuff. Let's go ahead and start wrapping up the show. I am going to do the cards because it's tradition. All right, I will just randomly cut the deck here. All right. So I think at this point we've gone through almost all the cards or all the cards in the deck, and we're going to get repeats. And so I'm just going to keep doing that because these are just wonderful lessons. And this week's logical fallacy. These are a deck of cards that talk about logical fallacies and cognitive biases, okay? Bad ways that we go about thinking or reasoning. And this week, the logical fallacy is composition/division. Composition/division. Assuming that what's true about one part of something has to be applied to all or other parts of it. Composition's division. Okay. Daniel was a precocious child and had a liking for logic. He reasoned that atoms are invisible and that he was made of atoms, so he was invisible too. Unfortunately, despite his thinky skills, he lost the game of hide and go seek. Okay. So that would be composition division is, oh yeah, atoms are invisible. I'm made of atoms. I'm invisible. I'm sure you guys can think of some examples of that in your own existence. All right, guys, thank you very much for all of this. You guys are awesome. Thanks for the calls that were coming in. And again, 11 a.m. tomorrow, we will be doing right here a live podcast. And I expect it to go for at least an hour with the back and forth. I will be talking about Scientology. I will be talking about something called missed withholds and how that leads directly and premeditatedly, purposefully, to thought control and thought policing in Scientology. So I hope we'll have some fun with that. And with that, let's go ahead and, let's wrap up the show. I will see you guys tomorrow, and not live, regular Q&A on Sunday. All right, guys. Bye-bye.